The red dust covered everything like blood on a battlefield. Commander Jake Morrison pressed his face against the cold window of the rescue ship and felt his stomach turn. Below him stretched what used to be New Providence Colony, the biggest human settlement outside Earth's solar system. Now it looked like hell had opened up and swallowed everything whole. The domes that used to house families were broken open like eggs. The streets where children played were filled with debris and bodies. The gardens where people grew food were burned to ash. 7 million people had called this place home. Now there was only silence and death. Jake had been in the military for 20 years.
He had seen combat.
He had seen soldiers die. He had seen things that gave him nightmares. But nothing prepared him for this. This was not war. This was slaughter. This was the systematic destruction of an entire colony full of innocent people who had done nothing wrong except try to build a new life on a distant world. The attack had come 3 days ago. The Xanthari fleet had jumped into the system without warning. Their ships had surrounded the colony before anyone could react. The plasma weapons had started firing immediately. The colony's shields had lasted maybe 10 minutes before failing. Then the real killing began. The Xanthari had targeted the residential domes first. Not the military installations, not the defense batteries. The homes where families lived, where mothers tucked their children into bed at night, where fathers read bedtime stories, where grandparents told tales of Earth. Lieutenant Amy Carter walked up behind Jake. Her uniform was clean, but her face was dirty from crying. She had family on New Providence, a sister, 2 nephews, a niece who had just turned 6 years old. They were all gone now, vaporized when the plasma hit their dome. Amy handed Jake a tablet without saying a word. Her hands were shaking. Jake took the tablet and read the report. The numbers made his blood run cold. 7,200,000 confirmed dead. No survivors detected. The scanning crews had been searching for 3 hours. They had found nothing. No one hiding in shelters. No one trapped in collapsed buildings. No one injured waiting for rescue. Just bodies and ruins and the red dust that covered everything. But that was not the worst part. The worst part was in the second section of the report, the communication logs. The rescue fleet had picked up transmissions from the system, not from New Providence. Those had gone silent during the attack. No, these transmissions were from observer ships, Galactic Council observer ships that had been in the system during the massacre, ships that had watched everything happen and done absolutely nothing to stop it. Jake felt rage building in his chest like a fire. The Galactic Council was supposed to be the peacekeeping force in the galaxy. 23 different alien species working together to maintain order and protect the innocent. Humanity had been trying to join the Council for 20 years. Every application was rejected. The Council said humans were too young, too aggressive, too dangerous, not ready to join the galactic community. And now those same Council members had watched as 7 million humans were murdered, and they had not lifted a finger to help. Amy spoke for the first time since entering the observation deck. Her voice was barely a whisper, but Jake could hear the pain in every word. The Council ships recorded everything. They documented the attack from start to finish. They sent reports back to their governments. They followed their non-interference protocols. They let it happen. Jake wanted to punch something. He wanted to scream. He wanted to grab every Council observer and throw them out an airlock. But he was a professional soldier. He had orders. His job was to document the scene and return to Earth with a full report. So he swallowed his rage and turned away from the window. "How long until we can jump back to Earth?" he asked. Amy checked her console. "Engineering says another hour. They want to make sure the jump drive is fully charged. We cannot afford a malfunction in deep space." Jake nodded. "Tell the scanning teams to finish their work. I want every piece of evidence collected. Every transmission recorded. Every image documented. When we get back to Earth, Command needs to see exactly what happened here. They need to understand what the Council allowed to happen." Over the next hour, Jake walked through the ship talking to his crew. Everyone was struggling with what they had seen. The medics who had gone down to the surface looking for survivors came back in shock. The engineers who were scanning the ruins kept breaking down in tears. The communication officers who had listened to the final distress calls from the colony could barely speak. This was not what they had signed up for. They had joined the military to protect human colonies, to explore space, to be heroes, not to collect bodies and document genocide. Jake found himself in the ship's small chapel. He was not a religious man, but he needed somewhere quiet to think. The chapel was empty except for a single candle burning on the altar. Someone had left it there for the dead. 7 million candles would have been more appropriate, but one would have to do. Jake sat in the front pew and stared at the flame. He thought about all the people who had died. The miners who had come to Kepler 442b looking for work. The teachers who had educated the colony's children. The doctors who had healed the sick. The farmers who had grown food in the alien soil. All gone now. All murdered while the galaxy watched. The intercom crackled to life. "Commander Morrison to the bridge. We are ready to jump." Jake stood up slowly. His body felt heavy like gravity had doubled. He took one last look at the candle, and then walked out of the chapel. The bridge was busy with activity when he arrived. Officers were checking systems and running final diagnostics. The view screen showed New Providence one last time. Jake stared at the ruined colony and made a silent promise to the dead. This would not stand. Somehow, some way, there would be justice for what happened here. "All systems green," the helmsman reported. "Ready to jump on your order, Commander." Jake took a deep breath. "Take us home. Earth needs to know what happened here. Earth needs to decide what comes next." The ship's engines hummed as power built up in the jump drive. Space began to ripple and twist around them. Jake watched the view screen as New Providence began to fade away. The red dust, the broken domes, the bodies of 7 million people, all of it disappearing as the ship prepared to leap across light years of space. In a few seconds, they would be gone, racing back to Earth with news that would change everything. The galaxy had watched humans die. Now Earth would respond, and Jake had a feeling that response would be something the galaxy had never seen before. Something terrible. Something final. The Xanthari had started this. The Council had allowed it. But humanity would finish it. He was sure of that. The ship jumped and New Providence vanished behind them. The Situation Room beneath the White House was cold and quiet. President Laura Bennett sat at the head of the long table and watched the holographic display floating in the center. The images showed New Providence colony in ruins, broken domes, scattered bodies, the red dust covering everything. She had seen these images 100 times in the past 2 days, but they still made her feel sick. 7 million people, 7 million human beings wiped out in a matter of hours. Men and women and children who had trusted their government to protect them. Who had believed that humanity's expansion into space was safe. Who had died screaming for help that never came. Admiral George Hayes sat to her right. His uniform was covered in medals from 40 years of military service. His face looked like it had been carved from granite. He had lost a grandson on New Providence, a young man who had gone to the colony to work as an engineer. 24 years old with his whole life ahead of him. Now he was ash and dust on an alien world. George had not cried at the funeral. He had stood straight and silent while his daughter sobbed. But Laura could see the rage burning in his eyes. The need for revenge. Secretary of Defense Craig Hamilton was pacing back and forth behind his chair. He could not sit still. The man was practically vibrating with anger. 7 million civilians, he kept saying over and over. 7 million unarmed civilians slaughtered while the Galactic Council watched. While they documented everything for their records. While they hid behind their non-interference protocols. General Patricia Flores sat across from Laura. She was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the highest-ranking military officer in the United States. Patricia had ice water in her veins. Nothing rattled her. She had fought in 3 wars and commanded troops on 4 continents. She was the kind of person who stayed calm during a crisis. But even she looked shaken by what had happened at New Providence. "Madame President," she said quietly, "we need to discuss our response options." Laura looked around the table. Every person in this room was waiting for her decision. Whatever she chose would define her presidency, would define humanity's place in the galaxy, would define the future of the entire human species. She felt the weight of that responsibility pressing down on her like a physical force. "Show me what we have," she said. Patricia activated another holographic display. This one showed a star system with a blue and green planet in the center. "This is Xanth Prime, the Xanthari homeworld, located in the Kepler 62 system approximately 80 light-years from Earth. The planet has a population of roughly 12 billion individuals spread across 3 major continents. Their military consists of approximately 500 warships of various classes and a planetary defense network of orbital platforms and ground-based weapon installations. Craig stopped pacing. We have confirmed that the attack on New Providence was ordered directly by the Xanthari High Command. This was not some rogue military unit or terrorist group. This was an official military operation, authorized at the highest levels of their government. They wanted to send a message that human colonies are vulnerable, that we are weak, that they can attack us whenever they want. Secretary of State Henry Clark spoke up for the first time. He looked tired and old. Madam President, I must advise caution. If we retaliate against the Xanthari homeworld, we will be killing billions of innocent civilians. Children who had nothing to do with the attack. Families who do not even know where New Providence is. We would be committing the same crime that was committed against us. George slammed his hand on the table. The same crime? They started this. They murdered our people. The Galactic Council established the rules of this galaxy, and those rules say that might makes right, that the strong can do whatever they want to the weak. Fine. Let us show them how strong humanity really is. Henry shook his head. Two wrongs do not make a right. We have always held ourselves to a higher moral standard. If we do this, if we commit genocide against an entire species, we become monsters. We prove that the Council was right to reject us. Laura listened to both men argue. She understood their positions. Henry was right that killing billions would be morally wrong. But George was also right that the galaxy only respected strength. For 20 years, humanity had tried diplomacy, had tried following the rules, had tried being good neighbors, and where had that gotten them? Rejected from the Council, isolated, vulnerable, and now 7 million dead. Patricia brought up another display. Madame President, I need to brief you on Project Ragnarok. She glanced around the room. What I am about to tell you is classified at the highest levels. Only a handful of people in the entire government know about this program. Laura leaned forward. Go on. For the past 10 years, our scientists have been developing a new type of weapon based on quantum mechanics. We call it a quantum destabilization device. Essentially, it is a machine that can disrupt the fundamental forces holding matter together at a planetary scale. One device can crack a planet's crust. Multiple devices working in coordination can tear a world apart completely. The room went silent. Even Craig stopped moving. Henry looked like he might be sick. George's expression did not change, but Laura saw something flicker in his eyes. Satisfaction, maybe. Or vindication. We currently have 12 Nova-class warships equipped with these devices, Patricia continued. Each ship is over 1 kilometer long and carries enough firepower to destroy an entire fleet. The Xanthari have never seen anything like them. Neither has anyone else in the galaxy. We kept this program secret specifically for a situation like this. Laura stood up and walked to the wall where a picture of Earth hung. The blue marble floating in space. Home to 10 billion humans, the cradle of their species. She thought about her own children. Katie was 16. Danny was 13. They were safe on Earth, but what about their future? What kind of galaxy would they grow up in? One where aliens could murder millions of humans without consequences? Or one where humanity was strong enough to defend itself? How long would it take? She asked without turning around. To mobilize the fleet? Patricia said. 48 hours. To reach Xanth Prime and complete the operation? Another 72 hours. Less than a week from the order to complete planetary destruction. Henry stood up. Madam President, please. I am begging you to reconsider. There has to be another way. Sanctions, diplomatic pressure. A limited military strike against their government installations. Anything except genocide. Laura turned around. The Council will not help us. We have already sent formal protests. We have demanded justice. We have asked for intervention. They have ignored every request. They have made it clear that human lives do not matter to them. That we are on our own, Craig nodded. Intelligence reports indicate that the Xanthari are planning additional raids on our colonies. They see New Providence as a success. They think we are too weak to fight back. If we do nothing, they will attack again. And the Council will watch again. And more humans will die. George spoke quietly. My grandson's name was Peter. He was going to get married next year. His fiancée was on New Providence too. They died together when the plasma hit their dome. I will never hold my great-grandchildren. I will never see Peter smile again. 7 million families are going through what my family is going through. 7 million families who deserve justice. Laura looked at each person in the room. The military leaders who were ready to unleash hell. The diplomat who wanted to find a peaceful solution. The intelligence analysts who had spent days reviewing every detail of the attack. Everyone was waiting for her decision. The decision that would change everything. She thought about Peter and his fiancée. About the 6-year-old girl who would never grow up. About the teachers and doctors and miners and farmers. About 7 million lives snuffed out while the galaxy watched. And she thought about the future. About Katie and Danny and all the other human children who deserve to grow up safe. Begin Operation Ragnarok, she said. The words felt like stones falling from her mouth. Heavy and final. I want the Xanthari homeworld destroyed. I want every ship. Every installation. Every trace of their civilization wiped from existence. And I want the Galactic Council to watch. I want them to see what happens when you let humans die. Henry closed his eyes. Craig smiled grimly. George nodded once. Patricia pulled out her communication device and began sending orders. Within minutes, the wheels were in motion. The fleet would assemble. The weapons would be armed. And soon the Xanthari would learn that humanity was not weak. That there were consequences for genocide. That Earth remembered its dead. Laura sat back down and stared at the image of New Providence. God forgive us, she whispered. But she knew there would be no forgiveness for what was about to happen. Only blood and fire and revenge. Captain Ryan Cooper stood on the bridge of the HMS Vengeance and watched through the main viewport as the largest war fleet in human history came together. The ships appeared one by one as they jumped into Earth orbit. Each arrival created a ripple in space like a stone dropped into still water. First came the 12 Nova-class warships. These were the giants. Each one stretched over a kilometer from bow to stern. Their hulls were painted black to blend with the void of space. Their weapons batteries bristled along every surface. These were not exploration vessels or cargo haulers. These were machines built for one purpose only: destruction. Around the Nova-class ships gathered the support fleet, destroyers and cruisers and frigates, troop carriers and supply vessels and hospital ships, communications platforms and sensor arrays and electronic warfare pods. Hundreds of ships total, every available military vessel that Earth could spare. This was not a raid or a surgical strike. This was an invasion fleet, an extinction fleet, a fleet designed to end an entire civilization. Ryan had been in the Navy for 15 years. He had served on patrol boats chasing pirates. He had commanded a destroyer protecting mining operations. He had seen combat against raiders and smugglers. But nothing in his career had prepared him for this. The sheer scale of what they were about to do made his hands shake. He gripped the railing in front of his command chair to keep them steady. His executive officer, Commander Lisa Grant, stood beside him reviewing status reports on her tablet. She had been quiet since coming on board. Everyone had been quiet. The whole fleet felt like a funeral procession. Final ship reporting ready, Captain, Lisa said without looking up. Fleet Admiral Karen White is requesting video conference with all ship commanders. Ryan nodded. Put her through to my ready room. I will take it privately. He walked off the bridge into his small office and closed the door. The view screen on his desk activated, showing Admiral White's face. She looked older than Ryan remembered. Her silver hair was pulled back tight. Her uniform was perfect, but her eyes looked tired, like she had not slept in days. Behind her, Ryan could see the bridge of the HMS Retribution, the flagship, the largest warship humanity had ever built. Captain Cooper, she said, I am about to address all commanders simultaneously, but I wanted to speak with you first. I know you have concerns about this operation. I have read your service record. I know the kind of officer you are, the kind of man you are, and I know what I am asking you to do goes against everything you believe in. Ryan sat down slowly. Admiral, with respect, we are about to kill 12 billion people. Not soldiers. Not warriors, civilians, children, babies who have not even learned to walk yet. How is this different from what the Xanthari did to New Providence? Karen's expression did not change. It is different because we did not start this. We did not attack them. We did not murder their people for no reason. They chose to make humanity their enemy. They chose to show us that the galaxy respects only strength. And now we are going to be strong. Strong enough that no one will ever attack a human colony again. At what cost? Ryan asked. Our souls? Our humanity? We become the monsters they think we are. We become survivors, Karen said firmly. Captain, I have a granddaughter.
She is 8 years old.
Her name is Emma. She likes to paint and read books about space exploration. She wants to be an astronaut when she grows up. She lives on Earth now, but someday she might want to move to a colony world. And when she does, I want her to be safe. I want every species in this galaxy to know that if they touch one human child, we will burn their entire civilization to the ground. That is what this operation is about. Not revenge, deterrence. Ryan wanted to argue, but he could not find the words. He thought about his own daughter, Sophie. She was 8 too, same age as Karen's granddaughter. Sophie's best friend had died on New Providence, a little girl named Emma who liked to draw pictures. Sophie had cried for weeks after hearing the news. She kept asking why the bad aliens had killed her friend. Ryan had not known what to tell her. "I understand, Admiral," he said finally. "I will do my duty." "I know you will," Karen said. "You are a good officer and a good man. That is why this is so hard for you. But sometimes good men have to do terrible things to protect the people they love. Remember that in the hours ahead." The screen switched to show all the ship commanders at once, dozens of faces looking back at Ryan. Some were grim. Some were angry. Some looked scared. Karen's voice came through the speakers, addressing everyone at once. "Captains, in 2 hours we jump to the Kepler-62 system. Our target is Xanth Prime. Our objective is absolute. The Xanthari population is estimated at 12 billion. By the end of this operation, that number will be 0. Ryan felt sick. Hearing it stated so plainly made it real. This was happening. They were really going to do this. Karen continued speaking. "I know what you are all thinking. Many of you are questioning whether this is right, whether this makes us as bad as the Xanthari. Let me be clear. The Xanthari chose this path when they slaughtered 7 million unarmed civilians. The Galactic Council chose this path when they watched and did nothing. We are not the monsters here. We are the consequence. We are what happens when you push humanity too far." The tactical display appeared showing Xanth Prime. The planet looked beautiful from space. Blue oceans and green continents, white clouds swirling in the atmosphere, cities glowing on the night side. It looked almost like Earth. Ryan wondered if the Xanthari had families like humans did, if they tucked their children into bed at night, if they had hopes and dreams and fears. Then he remembered the images from New Providence. The burned bodies, the broken domes, the red dust covering everything. Lisa's voice came over his communicator. "Captain, personal message coming through for you. It is from your daughter." Ryan returned to the bridge and pulled up the message on his private console. Sophie's face appeared on the screen. Her blonde hair was in pigtails. She was wearing her favorite blue dress. She smiled that gap-toothed smile that always made his heart melt. "Hi, Daddy," she said. "Mom told me you are on a really important mission. She said you are helping keep people safe. I am proud of you, Daddy. Come home soon, okay? I miss you. Oh, and guess what? I got an A on my math test. Mrs. Johnson said I did really good. I love you, Daddy. Bye." The message ended. Ryan stared at the blank screen for a long moment. Sophie was safe on Earth, protected, innocent. She did not know what her father was about to do. She thought he was a hero. What would she think if she knew the truth? That her daddy was about to help kill billions of people, including children just like her? He closed the message and stood up. The bridge crew was busy preparing for the jump, running final systems checks, coordinating with the other ships in the fleet. Everyone doing their jobs, professional, efficient, deadly. "All ships reporting ready," Lisa announced. "Fleet Admiral White has given the order. We jump in 5 minutes." Ryan walked to the viewport one last time. Earth floated below them, the blue and white sphere that was home to humanity. Somewhere down there, Sophie was probably eating dinner or doing homework or playing with her toys, living her normal, happy life. She would never know what happened today. The government would keep it classified. The public would be told that a military operation was conducted against the Xanthari. They would not be told the details, would not see the footage, would not know about the 12 billion dead. Maybe that was better. Maybe some horrors were too big to share. 1 minute to jump, the helmsman called out. Ryan returned to his command chair. He gripped the armrests and took a deep breath. All hands to battle stations. Prepare for combat operations upon arrival. We do this quick and we do this clean. No hesitation, no mercy. For New Providence and for New Providence, the bridge crew echoed. The jump drive powered up. Space began to fold around the ship. Ryan felt the familiar sensation of reality twisting. The stars outside stretched into lines. Earth vanished. And then they were gone. The entire fleet jumping through folded space toward Xanth Prime, toward Genocide, toward a moment that would change the galaxy forever. Ryan closed his eyes and thought about Sophie, about Emma, about all the human children who would grow up safe because of what was about to happen. He told himself that this was worth it, that this was necessary, that history would understand. But deep down he knew the truth. History would judge them as monsters, and maybe history would be right, but Sophie would be safe. And in the end, that was all that mattered. The human fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler-62 system like a swarm of angry hornets. Space rippled and tore as hundreds of ships materialized out of folded reality. Alarms began screaming across every Xanthari military installation within seconds. Their sensors had detected the massive energy signatures. Their defense network was lighting up with warnings. An invasion force had arrived, and it was bigger than anything they had ever seen before. Captain Ryan Cooper watched his tactical display as red dots began appearing all over the screen. Xanthari warships moving to intercept. Their planetary defense fleet was scrambling. Orbital platforms were powering up weapons. Ground-based missile batteries were going active. The Xanthari military was responding exactly as Earth's intelligence had predicted. Fast but not fast enough. They were reacting to a threat they did not understand. Could not understand, because they had never faced weapons like the ones humanity had brought. Enemy fleet composition confirmed. Lisa reported from her station. 463 warships of various classes. Multiple carrier groups, heavy cruiser squadrons, destroyer screens. They are forming a defensive perimeter around Xanth Prime. Ryan nodded. The Xanthari had numbers, but numbers would not save them today. Weapon status? All railguns charged and ready. Missile tubes loaded. Point defense systems online. We are ready to engage on your order, Captain. The communication channel crackled to life. A harsh clicking voice filled the bridge. It took a moment for the translation software to convert the Xanthari language into English. Human vessels, you are in violation of Xanthari sovereign space. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed. This is your only warning. Admiral White's voice came over the fleet-wide channel, cold and hard as steel. Xanthari command. This is Fleet Admiral Karen White of the Earth Defense Force. We are here in response to your unprovoked attack on New Providence Colony. You murdered 7 million of our people. You committed genocide against unarmed civilians. Your government is hereby charged with crimes against humanity. Your appeals for mercy should be directed to the families of those you killed. There was a pause. Ryan could almost hear the confusion on the other end. The Xanthari had not expected this. They thought humans were weak, thought one attack would be enough to scare Earth into submission. They were about to learn how wrong they were. You dare threaten the Xanthari Empire? The voice came back. Angry now, arrogant. The Galactic Council will hear of this aggression. You will be sanctioned. Your species will be quarantined. You cannot win this fight. The Galactic Council watched our people die, Admiral White said. Her voice was quiet, but everyone on every ship could hear the rage underneath. They did nothing while you slaughtered innocents. Now they can watch you die. Now they can do nothing while we return the favor. The channel went dead. For 3 seconds there was silence. Then Admiral White gave the order that would start the killing. All ships weapons free. Execute Phase 1. Burn them. The human fleet opened fire and hell came to Xanth Prime. Railguns accelerated tungsten rods to a significant fraction of light speed. The projectiles crossed the distance between fleets in seconds. When they hit Xanthari ships, the results were catastrophic. Hulls designed to withstand plasma weapons and particle beams simply evaporated under the kinetic impact. Ships that had ruled this sector of space for generations were torn apart like paper. Explosions blossomed across the void as reactors breached and ammunition stores detonated. The Xanthari fleet tried to return fire, but they were outranged and outgunned. Their plasma cannons could not reach the human ships. Their missiles were intercepted by point defense systems that tracked hundreds of targets simultaneously. For every shot the Xanthari fired, the human fleet fired 1,000. It was not a battle. It was an execution. Ryan watched his weapons officer coordinate the HMS Vengeance's fire with cold efficiency. Target the orbital defense platforms. I want every satellite and station eliminated. Nothing gets to stay in orbit. The ship's railguns swiveled and fired in rapid succession. Bright flashes lit up the darkness as orbital installations died. Communication satellites, sensor arrays, defense platforms, manufacturing stations. Everything humanity could target was being systematically destroyed. The Xanthari had built their orbital infrastructure over centuries. It was being erased in minutes. Enemy fleet breaking formation, Lisa called out. They are attempting to scatter. Some ships are trying to flee the system. Admiral White's response was immediate. Pursuit protocol. Nothing escapes. Hunt them down. Human destroyers and frigates broke from the main fleet and chased the fleeing Xanthari ships. It was like watching wolves chase rabbits. The human vessels were faster and more maneuverable. One by one, the Xanthari ships were caught and destroyed. Some tried to surrender. Some broadcast distress signals. Some simply activated their self-destruct systems rather than face capture. None of it mattered. The orders were clear. Total elimination. The battle lasted 42 minutes from first shot to last. When it was over, the Xanthari defense fleet was gone. Debris fields marked where proud warships had once patrolled. Escape pods drifted in the void, but no rescue ships came for them. The human fleet did not fire on the escape pods, but they did not pick up survivors either. Those Xanthari would die slowly as their life support ran out. A mercy compared to what was coming next. Ryan stared at his tactical display. The space around Xanth Prime was clear. The planet floated defenseless before them. He could see the cities on the night side. Millions of lights. Billions of people going about their lives. Working and eating and sleeping. Completely unaware that their world was about to end. He felt his stomach twist. This was the moment. This was when they crossed the line from soldiers to monsters. Phase 2, Admiral White ordered. Nova-class ships take position around the target. Prepare quantum destabilization devices. The 12 massive warships moved away from the main fleet. They arranged themselves in a perfect sphere around Xanth Prime. Each ship moved to a precise location calculated by the tactical computers. When they were in position, they stopped and began extending their weapon arrays. Long mechanical arms unfolded from the hulls. At the end of each arm was a device that looked almost organic, like some kind of technological tumor. These were the quantum destabilization devices, the weapons that could crack a world. Captain, we are receiving transmissions from the planet's surface, Lisa said. Her voice was shaking. Hundreds of channels, thousands. They are civilian broadcast. They know what is happening. They are begging us to stop. Ryan closed his eyes. He could imagine the scenes playing out below. Parents grabbing their children. People running into the streets. Panic spreading through the cities like wildfire. Everyone looking up at the sky and seeing the human fleet. Seeing death hanging above them like a sword. Block all incoming transmissions, he said quietly. Sir? Lisa looked at him with wide eyes. Block them, Commander. That is an order. Ryan's voice was hard. If they listened to those voices, they would hesitate. If they hesitated, they might not go through with it. And if they did not go through with it, then New Providence died for nothing. Then humanity remained weak and vulnerable. Then Sophie and Emma and all the other children would never be safe. I do not want to hear them. No one on this ship hears them. Lisa's hands moved across her console. The desperate pleas fell silent. The bridge was quiet except for the hum of the ship's systems. Every officer at every station was focused on their work. No one spoke. No one looked at each other. They were all trying not to think about what they were doing. All Nova-class ships report ready, the tactical officer announced. Quantum destabilization devices armed and online. Targeting solutions locked, awaiting final authorization. A new voice suddenly broke through on the emergency channel. Earth Fleet, this is Galactic Council Observer Ship Harmony. You must cease this action immediately. What you are planning is genocide. Mass murder on an unimaginable scale. You will be condemned by every civilized species in the galaxy. Please, we are begging you, do not do this. Admiral White's response was ice cold. Observer Ship Harmony. You sat in orbit above New Providence and observed while our people were slaughtered. You watched children burn. You recorded their screams for your reports. You did nothing. Now you can observe this. Now you can record this. And maybe you will learn something about consequences. Maybe you will learn what happens when you let humans die. Admiral White, please, there are 12 billion people on that planet. Innocent people who had nothing to do with the attack on your colony. You cannot hold them responsible for the actions of their government. We held 7 million innocent people on New Providence, Admiral White said. Your council decided their lives did not matter, that human lives were expendable. Fine, now Xanthari lives are expendable. You established the rules. We are just playing by them. This is madness. This is evil. You will regret this. The only thing I regret, Admiral White said, is that it took us this long to respond. All ships, final weapons check. Prepare to fire on my mark. Ryan gripped his chair. This was it. The point of no return. In seconds they would give the order and 12 billion living beings would die. 12 billion futures would end. 12 billion stories would be cut short. Children who would never grow up. Artists who would never create. Scientists who would never discover. Lovers who would never meet. All of it ending because of what happened at New Providence. Because humanity had decided that survival was more important than morality. All systems green, Lisa reported. Her voice was barely a whisper. We are ready. Admiral White spoke one last time. Her words would echo through history, would be remembered forever as the moment humanity became something terrible and powerful. For New Providence. For every human who died while the galaxy watched. For every child who will never grow up. For the future of our species. All Nova-class ships fire. 12 beams of pure quantum energy lanced down from orbit. They pierced the atmosphere of Xanth Prime like spears of light. They struck the planet's surface at precisely calculated points along the major tectonic boundaries. For 3 seconds, nothing seemed to happen. The beams just hung there connecting the ships to the planet below. Then Xanth Prime began to die. The planet broke apart slowly at first. Cracks appeared along the surface, spreading out from the 12 impact points like spiderwebs across glass. The quantum destabilization devices had disrupted the fundamental forces holding the planet's matter together. The ground began to shake. Earthquakes measuring beyond any scale humanity had ever recorded rippled across every continent. Mountains collapsed. Cities crumbled. Oceans boiled away into steam. And then the crust itself began to split open. Captain Ryan Cooper watched from the bridge of the HMS Vengeance as Xanth Prime died. Massive chunks of rock the size of continents lifted away from the planet's core. Lava fountains thousands of miles high erupted from the wounds. The atmosphere ignited and burned away in minutes. The beautiful blue and green world that had looked so much like Earth became a hell of fire and destruction. And through it all, 12 billion Xanthari were dying. Burning, crushed, suffocated, vaporized. Every single one of them. The process took 30 minutes from start to finish. When it was over, there was no planet anymore. Just an expanding field of debris. Rocks and dust and the ashes of an entire civilization spreading out into space. Where Xanth Prime had orbited its star, there was now only rubble. The Xanthari species had been erased from existence. Their homeworld destroyed. Their people extinct. Their history ended. All of it gone in less time than it took to watch a movie. Ryan turned away from the viewport. He could not look anymore. His hands were shaking. His stomach was churning. He had just helped commit the greatest act of mass murder in human history. 12 billion dead. The number was so big it did not even feel real. How could anyone comprehend that much death? How many New Providence colonies would it take to equal 12 billion? Over 1,700. They had just killed the equivalent of 1,700 New Providence attacks. And for what? Revenge, justice? To send a message? Captain, orders from Fleet Command, Lisa said quietly. We are to return to Earth immediately. All ships are being recalled to defensive positions around human colonies. Ryan nodded but did not speak. He could not trust his voice right now. Around the bridge, his crew worked in silence. No one was celebrating. No one was cheering. There was no victory here. Just a terrible thing that had been done and could never be undone. The fleet began the long journey home. Ships jumped away one by one, until only the observer vessels remained. The Galactic Council ships that had watched everything, that had recorded every moment of Xanth Prime's destruction. Soon the images would spread across the galaxy. Every species would see what humanity had done. Every government would understand that Earth was not to be trifled with. The message had been sent, written in fire and blood across the void. 2 days later, Ryan stood in President Laura Bennett's office. She looked tired. Too older somehow, like the weight of what had happened was physically crushing her. She sat behind her desk with her hands folded and stared at him for a long moment before speaking. The Galactic Council has called an emergency session, she said. They are voting on whether to classify humanity as a threat species. Whether to authorize military action against Earth. I am supposed to address them in 1 hour. What will you tell them, Madame President? Ryan asked. Laura smiled, but there was no warmth in it. The truth. That we did what we had to do. that we will do it again if necessary. That human lives matter, and anyone who thinks otherwise will learn the same lesson the Xanthari did. She stood and walked to the window. Outside, the sun was setting over Washington. The sky was painted orange and red, beautiful and peaceful, so different from the hell they had created at Xanth Prime. "How are you holding up, Captain?" Ryan wanted to say he was fine, that he was a soldier and soldiers followed orders, but he was tired of lying, tired of pretending. "I keep seeing it. The planet breaking apart, knowing that billions of people were dying every second. Children, babies, people who never did anything wrong except be born Xanthari. I followed my orders. I did my duty, but I do not know if I can live with what we did." "Good," Laura said. She turned to face him. "If you could live with it easily, then you would be a monster. The fact that it haunts you means you are still human, still moral. But being moral does not mean being weak. It does not mean letting our people die because we are afraid to be strong. Is that what you will tell the Council?" "I will tell them that Earth is done asking for permission, done begging to be treated as equals. We tried diplomacy for 20 years and it got us nowhere. We followed the rules and the rules failed us. So now we make our own rules. And rule number 1 is simple. Do not touch our people. Do not threaten our colonies. Do not test our resolve, because if you do, we will end you. Completely. Finally. The way we ended the Xanthari." Ryan thought about Sophie, his little girl who thought her daddy was a hero, who did not know what he had done. "What about the moral cost? What about our humanity?" "Our humanity is our children growing up safe," Laura said. "Our humanity is our colonies thriving without fear. Our humanity is making sure that what happened at New Providence never happens again. Yes, we did a terrible thing. Yes, we have blood on our hands. But that blood bought us security. It bought us respect. It bought us a future." 1 hour later, the President addressed the Galactic Council. The chamber was packed with representatives from 23 different species. Insectoid beings and reptilian creatures and things that looked like living crystals, all of them staring at the human who had ordered genocide. The room was loud with arguments and accusations. Laura waited for silence. When she finally spoke, her voice was calm and clear. "Members of the Galactic Council, I stand before you today to address the destruction of Xanth Prime. Many of you have called humanity monsters. Savages. A plague that must be contained. You are correct." She paused and let that sink in. "We are monsters. We are savage. We are dangerous. And you made us this way." The chamber erupted in shouts. Laura raised her hand and continued. "For 20 years, Earth petitioned to join your council. We sought your protection. We followed your laws. We tried to be good neighbors. And what did we get? Rejection, isolation. And when the Xanthari attacked New Providence, when they murdered 7 million of our people, you watched. You documented. You did nothing." A tall insectoid being stepped forward. This was High Chancellor Vrixtal, the leader of the council. "The attack on New Providence was regrettable, but your response was disproportionate. You have committed genocide. This cannot be tolerated. Cannot be tolerated?" Laura's voice rose. "Then do something about it. Send your fleets. Try to punish us. Try to make us pay for what we have done. We will be waiting with the same weapons that destroyed Xanth Prime. And we have 42 colonies across 18 star systems. Every single one is armed. Every single one is defended. Every single one is ready to turn your worlds into debris fields if you threaten us." She stepped closer to Vrixtal. "You established the rules of this galaxy. Might makes right. The strong prey on the weak. The Xanthari learned to play by your rules and they attacked us thinking we were weak. Now they are extinct. Let that be a lesson to everyone here. Humanity is not weak. Humanity is not prey. And anyone who forgets that will share the Xanthari's fate." "This is insanity," Vrixtal said. "You cannot threaten the entire Galactic Council." "I am not threatening," Laura replied. "I am informing. Human space is now sovereign territory. We are no longer asking for your permission or your protection. We do not need either. What we need is for you to leave us alone. Let us live in peace and we will let you live. Attack us and we will respond with overwhelming force. The choice is yours." She turned and walked out of the chamber. Behind her, the council dissolved into chaos. Some species called for war. Others argued for containment. A few quietly began sending diplomatic messages to Earth proposing non-aggression pacts. Over the next month, the galaxy watched and waited. The council held vote after vote but could not reach consensus. Some species wanted to destroy Earth before humanity became even more dangerous, but none of them wanted to be first. None of them wanted to risk being the next Xanth Prime. The images of the planet's destruction had spread everywhere. Every civilization had seen what human weapons could do, and they were afraid. In the end, the Council voted to do nothing, not because they forgave humanity, not because they understood, but because they were scared. Earth had proven itself willing and able to commit total extinction. That made humanity the most dangerous species in the galaxy, and the smart play when dealing with something dangerous was to leave it alone. Ryan Cooper was promoted to Admiral and given command of Earth's home fleet. He spent his days coordinating the defense of humanity's colonies. He spent his evenings with Sophie, helping with homework, reading bedtime stories, being a normal dad. But every night before sleep, he would stand at his window and look up at the stars. Somewhere out there was a debris field that used to be a living world, 12 billion ghosts floating in the void. Their deaths were on his hands. On all their hands, Sophie was safe now. Every human child was safe. The galaxy feared Earth, and that fear would protect them for generations. No alien species would dare attack a human colony. Not after what happened to the Xanthari. They had paid for safety with blood. 12 billion lives for the security of humanity's future. Ryan told himself it was worth it. That they had no choice. That this was the only way. But late at night, when he could not sleep, he wondered if that was true. He wondered if there had been another path. A better way. But those thoughts led nowhere good, so he pushed them down and focused on what mattered. Sophie. The future. The survival of his species. The galaxy would remember Xanth Prime. They would remember what Earth had done. They would remember the day humanity showed its teeth. And they would be careful. They would be respectful. They would leave human colonies alone. Mission accomplished. Objective achieved. 7 million dead avenged with 12 billion more. The math was brutal, but the result was clear. Earth was safe. Humanity would survive. And the galaxy had learned to fear them.